We have an update. Today, Tuesday, April 24th, a federal judge signed off on the National Association of Realtors lawsuit. As you may know, there was a large lawsuit and the realtors lost. Well, a federal judge has signed off on everything, and right now we still don't know exactly how everything's going to be affected, but what we do know is that the next green light has been given for this to go forward. Let's talk about this and how this is going to affect sellers and buyers in the market and real estate agents. But first, let me tell you who I am. My name is Maciek Zaremba. I'm a broker associate in Sarasota, Florida. If you have any questions about buying real estate or selling in Florida, give me a call, 941-888-SOLD. Been in this business a very long time. I also invest, so if you have questions about investing, please reach out to me. So the Antitrust Settlement has been approved. $418 million is going to be paid to the plaintiffs. And now, how is this going to affect the real estate agents? How is it going to affect the buyers? And how is it going to affect the sellers? So let's put on, first of all, our buyer hat. The whole thing that the buyers are going to think is, great, it's now going to be 3% cheaper to buy a house. And they think that is because it's no longer going to be mandatory for sellers to pay buyer's agents and find buyers for their property. Even though this is how business has been done for decades, if not close to 100 years in the States. At this point, it's looking like all signs are pointing to the fact that sellers will no longer be required. And although it does seem like, indeed, you will save 3%, let me tell you a couple different ways this could play out. First of all, when we talk to sellers, as listing agents, we talk to sellers, the commission on the buyer side is a marketing tool. It basically will attract people that have signed exclusive agreements with their agent. And those agents are going to bring those buyers because they know they're going to be compensated from the seller. And sometimes these buyers do not have an additional, 3% to pay their agent that they are under contract with an exclusive agency agreement with. So buyers think that the prices are going to go down, but the reality is that that's only true sometimes. What's actually going to happen, and this is just a prediction, is that some buyers are going to be able to afford their agent, and eventually, over time, some buyers' agents are going to, pimp themselves out for low dollars, for low costs, from 3% to 2.5% to 2% to a flat fee, $5,000, and then some people will just do it for $2,000 flat fee. And here's what I want to caution all of you buyers on. If you're looking for the cheapest agent, well, do you not get what you pay for? Isn't that how life works? So a brand new agent, let's go over a scenario. Brand new agent, never done a deal in his life, hungry for business, does not know or does not want to prospect for listings. They just want to do buyers because buyers are easy. They only reject the property, they don't reject the agent. So they're like, okay, I'm going to go and get a buyer agency agreement. I'm going to get 5 buyers that I'm going to work for exclusively. And then they come into an agreement time, sign the paper. Now let's look at houses. Well, sometimes they're going to say, well, look, we're only willing to pay you $2,000. And whatever agent agrees to $2,000 or $1,000 is going to be an agent that doesn't value their time. Or they're going to be a brand new agent. And a brand new agent has to learn somewhere. So you're going to be the learning ground for that agent. So a lot of people are going to start looking for buyer's agents that have a lot of experience. And they're going to say, how long have you been in business? When the real question should be, how many transactions have you done? The real question is, do you own your own home? The real question is, do you invest in real estate? People are going to be looking for the cheapest cost, not knowing what questions to ask up front. And I think a lot of people are going to get burned so badly because they just don't have the 3% to pay. The median sales price of a home in Florida is somewhere around $450,000 or something like that. Well, 3% of $450,000 is what, $13,500? Do you have an extra $13,500 to pay an agent to open doors for you, write contracts, negotiate contracts, look at properties, preview properties, scout the best areas, do some work for you, like preliminary work to find out what exactly is it that you're looking for and help you narrow down which areas you're going to live in. And I know that some of you are going to be buying a home and you know exactly where you want to live in this particular neighborhood because your in-laws live there or whatever the reason is, the school district or something like that. But those are rare scenarios. A lot of times people are just like, hey, I want to move to Sarasota, where should I live? And then they start looking at 34234 and then they're surprised at that neighborhood. Go Google it, check it out. What is that neighborhood like? It's not what people dream of the 34242, which is beachfront Siesta Key. What's up? That's what people want. And unfortunately, you know, you can go do your own research, but you're not going to get the same type of research if you don't live here by hiring a crappy agent. And then if they are kind of, you know, reducing their expense of a $2,000 flat fee, how hard are they going to work for you? How hard are they going to actually look at every single day, look at what's new that meets your criteria, send you the stuff that looks good because they manually previewed everything one by one, every photo got looked at, and then we'll actually look at properties before scheduling an appointment for you to go see it, to save you time. That's what I do. That's what a real agent does. That's what a hardworking buyer's agent does. Now, I'm not just a buyer's agent, but buyer's agents are going to be stuck. Now, the second thing I want to talk about as you as a buyer and trying to get the best bang for your buck is that you're going to get what you pay for. And what I mean by that is specifically the effort that the agent is going to put into you. And most likely on a $2,000 flat fee or $5,000 flat fee, what you're going to get is an agent that just puts you in an automatic email drip campaign. You get emails every day of what matches your criteria and you have to do all the work. And then before actually showing you a property, they're going to say, please drive by it first, make sure you like the neighborhood. And they're going to figure out ways to show as few properties as possible to get you to offer. And that's going to make you pre-qualify everything, not them, okay? So that's another thing. Now the last thing that's going to happen is all the first-time home buyers and the low-income people that are just trying to get out of the rental game and into the ownership game. They're going to have, you know, their 3% down payment for an FHA loan. They're going to be close to a 50% debt-to-income ratio, which is, I think, close to the maximum. I think you might be able to go up to 59% with FHA, which is still a bad idea if you do that. And they're not going to have money to pay their agent. So their agent is going to work very little. And maybe they won't be able to find an agent. Maybe they're going to have to go directly to the listing agent to find those deals, to find those properties, because they can't pay an agent to negotiate on their behalf. So what they're going to do, these buyers with no money are going to go, or just 3%, 3.5% down plus like an extra $5,000, $10,000 in closing costs. They're going to go directly to the listing agent. And that listing agent is representing the seller. That listing agent is going to say, hey, please sign this non-representation agreement because I'm not representing you buyers. I'm representing the listing, the seller, and I'm going to do everything in my power to negotiate against you to get to my seller the most amount of money without breaking the deal apart and try to get and squeeze everything out. So they're going to be like, hey, I'm the listing agent, no problem, you want to see my property, sign this, let's go. Then they go and you're like, well, we want to make an offer, what do? They say, hey, are you pre-qualified? No. Okay, well, you're not pre-qualified, you can't make an offer. Go to my lender. Now that lender is going to go pre-qualify you, the buyer, that is not paying that agent, using their lender, and then that lender is going to say, hey agent, guess what? These people have an extra $15,000, so you can squeeze more money out of them. Or hey lender, these people barely are going to qualify. And whatever it is that happens, that agent is now going to try to squeeze out more money out of you for their seller to win, so that their seller wins, okay? And you're going to lose. And then you're going to be all angry of, why did this lawsuit happen? And quite frankly, I don't know why this lawsuit happened. But enough about the buyers. Let's now talk about the sellers, because the sellers are also in a predicament. Sellers are here cheering and hurrahing, saying, great, we're not going to have to pay 6% anymore. We're going to be just paying 3% to our agent. And let me tell you why that's not true either. Because like I said earlier, the compensating agent commission is a marketing tool. That's how simple it is. And if you're not sure how it's a marketing tool, let me ask you this. If you're the buyer and you say, hey, I want to look at this house, and this house, and we have signed an exclusive agency agreement, and my commission is 3%. Well, I'm going to say, hey, listen, I looked into these 3 that you want to see, and I see that this one doesn't pay me, so you're going to have to pay me my 3%. This one doesn't pay me, so you're going to have to pay me my 3%. And this one here pays me, so you're not going to have to pay me. Which one would you choose to go see? And you're probably going to say this 3rd one. And that's why I would think you agree that it is used as a marketing tool. It disqualifies people because some people don't have the money to pay their buyer's agent. So now as a seller, when you're thinking, hey, I'm gonna go and save 3% on the listing, great. I mean, some people will. I'm not saying that it won't happen, but most people won't because it's used as a marketing tool. And right now, we have a rising inventory. We have more and more competitors trying to sell their home. And if you're a seller and you're trying to save that 3% on the listing, you're not actually going to save it because people are not going to be showing your property if you're not offering a buyer's agency compensation. It's that simple. Now, if you don't agree, let's give it 2 years and come back to this video and then comment and say, see, you are wrong. But I'm pretty sure I'm right. Now, as a seller, here's another thing that's going to happen. You're going to go and get a listing agreement with a listing agent. You're going to pay them, 3.5%, whatever you do. And you're going to then say, hey, great, find me a buyer. And I'm going to recommend you pay a buyer's agency compensation or offer it up at a certain price. If it's a low ball, then maybe not. But if it's a reasonable price, maybe you will offer that. And if you choose to not do that, you're obviously in a bad position in terms of negotiations. But then what if that buyer reaches out to me directly? Well, this is now a real good question because I think there's going to be some uncertain times ahead. Here's what I mean. I list your home. Now a buyer comes to me directly. I'm going to say, I'm not allowed to represent you because I don't have a buyer's agency agreement with you. Who's your agent? You're going to say, I don't have an agent. I'm trying to save the commission by going directly to the listing agent. And I'm going to say, okay, great. Well, the law has changed. I'm not allowed to open a door without having a buyer's agency representation with you. And then you're going to say, oh, interesting. Well, then let's sign one. And I'm going to say, well, my fee is 3%. So now you're not going to want to sign and you're not going to want to see this home. Or maybe you will sign. And then if you end up liking it and offering it, I'm going to get my 3% from you and I'm going to get my 3% from the seller. Now, there are a couple situations where it's really iffy. And this is where we're going to find out how it all plays out. The iffy situation is when the seller deliberately instructs me to show the property to everyone without an agreement signed with me. And I'm not going to be able to. It's going to be against the rules. It's going to most likely be against the law. So I won't be able to show their property. And they're paying me, 3.5% to list their home and market their home. And then when someone responds to my marketing and says, I want to see the inside, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, I can't, because we have to have a signed agency agreement. And this part is iffy because it hasn't been really spelled out by this lawsuit how that's going to work. It also doesn't spell out how it's going to work if we have a open house. Does every person going through that open house have to sign a representation agreement with that agent hosting the open house? So now all these, open house agents are going to get agreements from just people randomly shopping trying to save 3%? Or is it going to be a non-representation agreement? We don't know. It wasn't spelled out by this lawsuit. So we're walking into uncharted territory and we just don't know what will actually happen yet. But hopefully we will by November, because this settlement, this lawsuit, is going up in front of a judge in November. So hopefully that's going to be the end of the entire lawsuit where they will sign off on something and now we know what's happening and we know where this is going. And by the way, right now I am at Payne Park in downtown Sarasota. There's a baseball field here. Babe Ruth played here about 100 years ago. This is a cool, exciting park. There's a skate park here. There's a children's playground, that frisbee golf sport here. There's a little hill I'm walking up right now. There's a running track. It's dog friendly. Really cool park. And lastly, let's now talk about how is this going to affect the real estate agents. First of all, I think a lot of agents are going to quit the National Association of Realtors. They were not represented properly. We were not represented properly. A lot of our benefits went away. And at this point in time, we know there's going to be a very large shift in the way our industry works, in the way compensation works for our services. And a lot of people are not going to want to stick around because of the fear. So if you're a brand new agent just getting licensed, let me warn you, you're going to have to work twice as hard for the same pay. And you already had to work hard. That's why 90% of agents don't renew their license after the first 2-year mark, because it's a lot of work. They just think people call them when they want to buy a house. But that's not the case at all. You have to call and prospect and solicit for business. Which brings me to the next part, buyer's agents and listing agents. I think we're going to have major competition on the listing side. That's going to go up dramatically because agents are going to go to, they're going to have the conversation of, hey, pay me, then they might as well do it with listings, because listings take 1/5 of the work that buyers do, literally 1/5 the time. That is an actual statistic. So I think a lot more people are going to be calling on for sale by owners and expired listings and probates and everything else that are low-hanging fruit, and neighborhood prospecting and all of that. So there's going to be listing agents that end up taking so much business because that's all they will do, and they will give away all the buyers that call on their listings, and they're going to say, I'm not going to show it to you. You got to go and find an agent and sign a buyer agency representation with them. So listing agents are going to stop showing properties, even luxury. They're going to stop showing that, and they're just going to cold call, prospect, and get their admins to do all the paperwork. It's a really good business model. But what's going to happen to the teams? So teams are usually, there's like a rainmaker, that's the main listing agent, and then there's a few or a whole bunch of buyer's agents out there. And they usually split it 50-50. So the buyer's agents get 50% of what they've earned, the team gets 50%, but they provide all the support staff. And I think teams are going to grow and take over the market. I actually think the individual agent is going to disappear, and that's probably over 5 to 10 years. I'm thinking that with technology and the right systems and the right training, teams will grow where people join the team. They're just basically cold callers and door openers, and the team members are going to take over all the buyers out there because they're going to work for a smaller commission, but they're going to have a lot more volume, and they're going to get trained on how to eliminate the tire kickers, how to get people to sign contracts that will obligate them to use them as an agent. And then the rainmaker is going to be going on the listing appointments, and the rainmaker will hire ISAs, which is an inside sales agent, to make all the calls. So there will be like 4 or 5 people calling, 12 hours a day, trying to solicit for business, and the listing agent is actually just going to go on that appointment to close the deal, and then admin staff takes over after that. We're going to have big changes. What do you think is going to happen?